Hey everybody, welcome back to In Bed with the Millennial. I'm the Millennial Javeda Bay, and this is my bed. And it's September, and we are going back to school. And yes, I do mean we, because I am also still in school, so I am going back to school. And I feel like it's the perfect time to give some sex ed specifically for college students, because outside of like a few universities that offer like sex ed weeks, and like some of them that have like women, gender, and sexuality studies minors, sometimes a major, and like the occasional like sex ed programming offered like during orientation week, there's not much given around like sex ed for college students. And it's really wild because that's like very much a transitionary like time of a person's life where things can make abrupt changes and you're not just like, holy cow, I didn't know how to prepare for this. And so I feel that we should have sex ed that prepares us for this transition and all the things that could come up. So I want to talk about that, and specifically 5 areas of like sex ed to help you navigate the sexual terrain of college. So let's get into it. The first thing is relationships. And I mean all types of relationships. You've got platonic, you've got romantic, you've got sexual. There are a wide variety of relationships that you're going to enter into in college. And a lot of them are going to be like more so friendship based ones, just because you're in a new place and you're trying to make friends. But as things progress, you'll probably end up in romantic or sexual relationships. And for a lot of people, they did not have experiences with real relationships in high school. I know I didn't. I did not date anyone in high school. I was more focused on like, dance team and musical theater and ROTC than I was on being in a relationship. Just kidding. No one wanted to date me. It's okay. So I was not fully aware of like all the things you should know are good and bad in relationships. So I think it's important to know the red and green flags to be on the lookout for, because college introduces you to a lot of people. There are also a lot of age gaps, which can really play a part into not understanding or recognizing red flags in a relationship. Again, I ended up in a relationship with someone that was a lot older than me when I was in college, and because I hadn't had previous experience in relationships, I was not aware of the red flags and the emotional, mental, and physical abuse that was happening in this relationship. I was like, oh, this must be what it's like to have a boyfriend. No, it's not. So being mindful and understanding what are red flags, what are things that are not okay in a relationship and that you don't have to take, and you can leave that relationship, are extremely important. As well as knowing green flags, knowing that, oh, this friendship I've actually developed in college is a really good one. Like, this person actually respects me and values me as a human being and is not just like trying to use me for their own selfish purposes. Recognizing green flags is also important. So if you end up making friends and like, hey, we spend so much time watching Marvel Cinematic Universe content and we never study, even though we're both in the same gen ed class, like, maybe we should like switch it up and like go to the library and study together. That's a green flag, and that's a good friend. So yeah, just like pay attention to the green flags. Keep those people around. And if you notice red flags, don't keep those people around. Number 2, how do you make decisions around sexual choices? For a lot of people entering college, it's kind of like their first time being introduced to like sex in a variety of different forms, and they're kind of just like, I don't know what to do. Again, I was one of those people, because I was one of those people that was like, I'm waiting until I'm in love to have sex. I did not. I ended up doing it, and for a lot of different reasons that I don't think were good decision-making reasons. A lot of it was, I felt like I was being left behind, which made no sense. But also I made a lot of decisions that just like weren't good after I was sexually active. Like, I'm sorry, someone's like, I don't know if I want to use a condom. I knew that I would like that, but I was like, I'll cave. So I just want you to take some time, reflect, know what you are and are not comfortable with already around sex. So that way you can actually stand your ground in those decisions and not just like, I guess I'll go with the flow. You don't have to go with the flow if the flow don't fit for you. Like, no, don't do that. So take some time to sit and think about what you're actually okay with in terms of making sexual decisions. Or things that you're like, I don't even know how I would prepare for this. Like, if there's some topic that you're like, okay, I saw this in an episode of The Sex Lives of College Girls and I don't know how I would deal with this in real life. If you think of something, shoot me an email, slide into the DMs, let me know, and we can talk about it together. Because those things happen. That's real life. Number three, and in line with the whole making sexual decisions things, interacting with alcohol and drugs. So we all know that colleges are very infamously depicted as like party places, especially in like mainstream like TVs and movies. And it's true. A lot of colleges and universities are very much party places. I went to a party school. And so how do you then navigate like the whole thing of like sex when alcohol and drugs are in the mix? And I'm not going to get deep into it today because in the next couple of weeks, I'm having a whole video that just talks all about alcohol, sex, and consent. But I want you to think about it and be prepared because it's a reality that you will probably face at some point during school. But aside from the sex aspect, if you're someone that doesn't already drink alcohol and you're about to go to college, I want you, if you're choosing to actually partake in drinking alcohol, to get to know your body with alcohol in it. And this is extremely important because if you already know what it's like, what your body feels like when you're drunk on different types of alcohol and things of that nature, you have more awareness for the chances and situations where, you know, you might end up at a party and you end up drinking a drink that's roofied. You'd actually be able to tell the difference between like, hey, something's wrong in this situation and I should probably like go home, in comparison to being like, oh, I'm just like drunk and I've never been drunk before. No. If you already have tried alcohol and you recognize what your body's like in like a safe setting, like, you know, with like friends that you already have in college that are probably like upperclassmen and have their own place, you know, somewhere safe that you actually get introduced to alcohol is a really good idea instead of just waiting until you go to a party, and things are a little bit more high risk. That's my one piece of like unsolicited advice. Like, please just like get to know your body with alcohol in it so that way you can actually still recognize if something is not right. The next piece, number 4, when it comes to like understanding the sexual terrain of college, is knowing your resources. This is extremely important because there's so much that's offered on most college and university campuses that is there to help you throughout your entire time. So definitely knowing if your university has a health center is extremely important. One, because like you could go there for STI testing, you can go there if you're ever just like, oh, I need like my annual pap smear or whatever. Like you have a place to go on campus for that. But also like knowing if there is like an LGBTQ plus center on your college campus, especially if you are someone that is just getting to college. Knowing if that resource is there and you're already a part of that community, like if you yourself are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, having a place to go to where you can actually build more community without having to use gaydar is amazing. So know your resources, know what's available to you. Also, at my undergrad university, James Madison, we had a resource, it's called Safe Rides, where they would actually come and pick you up if you were out partying, and it was a free ride to get you back to your apartment or your dorm room if you went out partying, which is an amazing resource to have, especially in those like colder winter months when you're like leaving college parties and like very scantily clad outfits and you're like, I'm so cold. You can get a ride. So look into resources, know what's available to you so you can make the safest decisions for you and the most comfortable decision. And lastly, everyone needs to know how to talk about sexual topics when it comes to college because you're going to be interacting with a lot of people, from roommates to potential partners to just like passerbys that you happen to hear talking about something and you're like, oh, I want to be a part of this conversation. Whatever it may be, you need to know how to have the conversation, especially for those first 2 examples of people. Roommates to start. If you're someone that either uses sex toys or wants to use sex toys or wants to have partners come over for sex, you need to be able to talk to your roommate so that y'all have something in plan, because what you shouldn't be doing is bringing somebody over to having sex while your roommate's in the room without their consent, really like masturbating in front of your roommate without their consent. Like, you need to talk about it. Be like, hey, so we gotta live together, college can be stressful, I like to masturbate as a form of stress relief. How do we want to navigate this together? Like, would you like me to put up a sign? Do you want to like trade class schedules so we can like figure out when somebody won't be in the room and we'll know when's a good time? Like, what happens if we want to bring somebody over? Have the conversation. It probably will feel awkward, especially if you're someone that has like had your whole own room your whole life and now you're sharing a room and you're like, I've never had to talk to somebody about this. Like, I could just go in my room and do whatever I wanted. It's gonna be awkward. It's okay though, because the awkwardness will go away. It'll dissipate. And then you all will have something in place that y'all can navigate the entire year in terms of sex and sexuality and pleasure. So yeah, maybe awkward, but if you do it, you'll get through it and it'll be great. And then for actual potential partners, it's important to talk about sexual related topics because you all should be having a conversation around like safer sex practices. So that's being like, hey, have you been STI tested? When was the last time? That conversation is important. Hey, I don't think that either one of us is trying to get pregnant or procreate right now. So like, what do we want to do for safer sex methods? Like, I've got condoms, I've got internal condoms. Like, having that conversation is extremely important. Also, like, talking about boundaries. Like, hey, totally cool for us hooking up, but like, I really do not want you like hanging out in my room afterwards. I really like would like my own like space. My roommate's gonna be back in whatever amount of time. And we like said no one's sleeping over. So like, I just want to let you know before we do anything. Yeah, that's an important conversation to have with a partner. Also, hey, yeah, I want this to be a good time for both of us. Just because we're in college doesn't mean we can't have good sex. So let's talk about what we actually like. A very important conversation that I think is left out of a lot of college room, like dorm rooms and stuff, but it should be had because just because you're like, 20, 18 years old doesn't mean that the sex you're having can't be pleasurable. So get used to having that conversation like, hey, we're about to do some stuff. I just want you to know, like, things I like, behind the ear kisses, whatever it is, communicate it. Just get used to talking about sexual related topics. But yeah, that's like the crash course and like all the things that you should probably be prepared for if you're going to college or going back to college. And that's what we're going to be talking about all this month. So if you want all of that info and more, definitely make sure you are following me on social media because that's where all of it's really going to be. And come back every week because I'm going to have a new episode of In Bed with a Millennial that talks about something more in depth. And it's going to be a good time. But yeah, to all the college students watching, I hope that you have the best fall semester. And I'm rooting for you and I believe in you and you got this. And to all the grown-ups watching, please send this to every college going person and yeah, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. You're following me on Instagram and TikTok, and you're subscribed to my email newsletter because it's fall, which means there's a lot of good things happening. I love planning things for the fall, so you don't want to miss it. But until then, I'm gonna see you later. Deuces.